The day I found out I was pregnant, Christopher had just returned home with his first love, and the two of them presented me with a divorce agreement. Emily is carrying my child, and I had promised her a complete family. In truth, marrying you was never my true intention. Emily will now become your sister-in-law. Under Christopher's cold gaze, I suddenly felt that all my persistence had become meaningless. I signed the agreement without hesitation. In that moment, I made the decision to terminate the pregnancy. I went to the hospital alone and underwent the procedure. The doctor looked at me with a hint of regret, but I just smiled slightly and leaned against the wall as I walked out slowly. As soon as I stepped out of the hospital, I bumped into Emily. "How could you walk so carelessly? Can't you see someone is pregnant?" Christopher pushed me away angrily. My body swayed and I nearly fell. He was about to say something but froze when he saw me, his brows furrowing instantly. "What are you doing at the hospital?" "My stomach hurts. I must have eaten something bad." I steadied myself and gently rubbed my still aching lower abdomen. "I told you not to eat cold food yesterday. But you wouldn't listen. Now you're suffering. You'll have to stay in the hospital and spend more money." Christopher nodded. "We need to be more careful from now on. Emily is pregnant, and there will be many expenses ahead." He glanced at me impatiently, then helped Emily into the hospital. Watching their backs disappear, my heart ached like a knife was cutting through it. I didn't want to witness their intimacy anymore, so I went straight home. I opened the wardrobe and pulled out a box that had been buried at the bottom for a long time. Inside lay the admission notice from the Aerospace Research Institute from 2 years ago. At the time, I had passed the exam with excellent grades, but I chose to give it up for Christopher. Now that I've regained my freedom, it's time to pick up the unfinished dream. I put the admission notice away and prepared to leave. Just as I reached the door, it was pushed open from the outside. Christopher and Emily, who was pregnant, were walking in. "Grace, you're still home? That's great." He handed me a chicken, saying Emily needed to nourish herself and asked me to help stew it later. Then he had Emily sit on the sofa to rest, looking at the chicken in my hands. I couldn't help but feel ironic. This chicken was only worth a few dollars, and Christopher's monthly salary was at most 70 or so. As far as I could remember, we only bought a chicken to celebrate important holidays. Looking back now, my previous frugality seemed a bit ridiculous. Christopher noticed I was still standing there and spoke with a hint of irritation. "What are you waiting for? Start stewing the chicken." Seeing his impatient expression, I felt completely at ease. He never truly cared about me. Why should I stay? So I placed the chicken on the table and said, "She's your wife. I have other things to do. You can handle this yourself." With that, I left the house. Christopher probably never imagined I would be so decisive, just as I never expected Emily to suddenly show up with his child. I took the admission notice and headed straight to Christopher's parents' house. Upon arriving, Christopher's father was sitting on the sofa with an angry expression, while his mother kept trying to calm him down. When they saw me, his mother rushed out with red eyes and grabbed my hand. "Grace, you've been wronged." I smiled slightly, comforted his mother for a moment, then turned to speak directly to his father. "Dad, there's something I need your help with. Can you help me contact the Research Institute? I still want to fight for that opportunity." I handed him the admission notice. My father stared at it for a moment, then sighed deeply. "Are you sure you've thought this through?" I nodded firmly. "All right, I'll handle it for you. No matter what happens, you'll always be a part of this family." The bond between father and son brought tears to my eyes. Back then, my father had taken a bullet for his father, which is why the Christopher family had adopted me when I was young. It was also then that I met Christopher, who was 10 years older than me. He had always been kind to me, but over time, I developed feelings for him. After Emily went abroad, he got drunk one night and I went to take care of him, and we ended up having a relationship. It was also then that my father asked me if I was willing to marry Christopher. So I gave up my dream of pursuing a graduate degree and quietly went through with the wedding. After marriage, I did my best to take care of him. Though there wasn't much affection between us, our life was relatively smooth until Emily's return. "Mom, can you help me stew this chicken?" At that moment, Christopher's voice came from the door. Before my mother could respond, my father walked out with a furious expression. "You dare to come back." He grabbed the whip on the table and swung it at Christopher. "Dad, what are you doing? You have the nerve to ask me what I'm doing. You know exactly what you've done." Before Christopher could finish speaking, I saw him emerge from the study, His eyes were filled with coldness. Grace. What did you tell my father? Grace, I never realized you were such a gossip, he said, trying to pull me toward him, but Christopher's father blocked him. What did Grace say? Don't you know what you've done? Dad, I told you before that I don't love Grace. I won't marry her. You forced me to. Christopher finished speaking and glared at me fiercely. I felt his gaze, and my hands clenched into fists unconsciously. I thought that once I stopped loving him, my heart wouldn't hurt anymore, but when I heard him say it with his own mouth, my heart still ached. Are you trying to drive me crazy? Christopher's father said, raising the whip in his hand, ready to strike Christopher. At that moment, Emily rushed in from the door and stood in front of Christopher. Emily, the whip struck Emily's back hard, and she screamed before collapsing into Christopher's arms. Christopher, don't be angry with me because of your father. Emily's voice was faint, as if she might faint at any moment. Emily, how can you be so naive? Christopher said, quickly picking Emily up. Grace, if anything happens to Emily, I won't let you off the hook. After saying that, he carried Emily out the door without looking back. I watched their backs, and the pain in my palms made me realize I had dug my nails into the flesh. Christopher's mother took some disinfectant from the cabinet beside her and took my hand. Grace, don't blame Christopher. After all, Emily is carrying our Christopher family's child. She disinfected my wound while sighing and comforting me. What you just said, Christopher's father wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Christopher's mother. You too, you knew Emily was pregnant, yet you were so ruthless. If something happens to our grandson, how will you face it? Christopher's mother's words left Christopher's father speechless. Seeing their expressions, I quietly withdrew my hand. Mom, I have something to do. I'll leave first. I left the Christopher family, intending to go home to get some money to buy supplies at the supply store. But before I even reached home, I felt dizzy and unwell. There was nothing I could do, so I returned to the hospital. The doctor said I had just had a miscarriage. My body was still weak, and I hadn't rested properly, which is why I had a fever. He prescribed some fever-reducing medicine for me, just as I was about to leave the hospital. I ran into Emily. What a coincidence, Grace. Emily walked toward me with a smile, but there was a hint of sarcasm in it. Grace, really, no matter when. You've never been as good as me, neither in the past nor now. Looking at Emily in front of me, she was no longer the pitiful person she had been earlier. I just wanted to see the outside world, but you were with Christopher while I was away. You deserve this. After saying that, she glanced at my flat stomach. You probably had a miscarriage this morning? Her words caught me off guard, but she was smiling at me with malice in her eyes. I've seen you act like this many times before. She leaned closer and said, I'll just tell you straight, the child in my belly isn't Christopher's. But who can blame him for loving me so much? He believes everything I say. Don't you believe me? Then let's test it. Before I could react, she had already grabbed my hand. Emily, don't do this. Christopher and I are serious. Just as I pushed her away, Emily suddenly let go of my hand and fell backward stiffly. Grace, what are you doing? At that moment, Christopher walked over from a distance and caught Emily before she fell. Christopher, you finally came, she said, leaning into Christopher's arms, her voice choked with tears. I was waiting for you here earlier, when I saw Grace. I wanted to say hello, but as soon as she saw me, she accused me of stealing her husband and even tried to hit me. Emily hadn't finished speaking before she started crying in Christopher's arms. Seeing the woman he loved crying, Christopher felt heartbroken. He comforted her, and then turned to look at me coldly. Grace, I never thought you were this kind of person. How did I not notice how petty you are before? We're already divorced, yet you're still clinging to Emily? Not only did you go tell my father, but you even tried to hit her. I really misjudged you before. After saying that, Christopher took a few steps toward me, his eyes filled with hostility. I told you before that if you ever bully Emily again, I won't let you off easily. No sooner had the words left his mouth than Christopher raised his hand and slapped me hard across the face. The pain on my face was searing, but compared to the pain in my heart, it was nothing. This was the first time Christopher had ever hit me. I touched my face, looked at him, and tears welled up in my eyes. Christopher, since we've known each other, you've never hit me. Today, you hit me over a woman. What kind of woman is she? Grace, Emily is going to be your sister-in-law. An elder sister-in-law is like a mother. You should show her respect. Hearing him say that and seeing Emily standing there with a smug expression, I couldn't help but laugh. Sister-in-law, Christopher, I never thought you would say such things to your ex-wife. I held back my tears, pushed him away, and staggered out of the hospital. When I returned home, seeing the house where Christopher and I had lived together for 2 years, I felt a wave of bitterness in my heart. I roughly wiped the tears from my face, packed my belongings, and prepared to leave at any moment. I took the medicine and fell asleep quickly. That night, Christopher didn't come back. The next day, Christopher's father came to my house and told me that the Research Institute had agreed to let me go, and he had already bought me a train ticket for tomorrow. He asked me if I was truly decided to leave. If I still wanted to stay, he would make Emily leave after she gave birth. Seeing his eyes filled with apology, I smiled bitterly and shook my head. There was no hope left between Christopher and me. My love for him had vanished. Christopher's father walked over, took my hand, and said, "Grace, the Christopher family is sorry for what we've done to you." After saying that, he slipped $100 into my hand and turned to leave. Seeing the money, I smiled. So all these years, in their eyes, my worth was only $100. After Christopher's father left, I went to find my father's old comrade in arms and asked him to help me investigate what Emily had been up to abroad and why she had told me the child wasn't Christopher's. That afternoon, I received his reply. Before leaving, I placed his reply and the $100 Christopher's father had given me in an envelope and asked Christopher's colleague to deliver it to him. As I watched the city grow smaller in the distance, I thought to myself that I might never return here again. At school, Christopher was preparing for class when a colleague handed him an envelope. Upon opening it, his eyes widened. "Grace? Where is she?" Christopher grabbed the person who delivered the letter. She gave me the letter and then seemed to head toward the train station. "This is terrible," Christopher muttered under his breath. Hearing the bell ring, he hurried toward the train station. As soon as I got off the train, I saw Lucas waiting to pick me up. "Lucas, it's been years since we last saw each other. You've grown taller and more beautiful." Lucas took my suitcase naturally, and I scratched my head a little embarrassed. "I heard from your teacher that you were coming, so I had someone tidy up your room yesterday. Let's go. I'll show you around." Saying that, Lucas pulled my suitcase and led me out of the train station. Outside the train station, a pregnant woman was standing there, smiling at us as she walked toward us. "Is this the little sister you grew up with?" She took my hand, looked around, and smiled warmly. "Yes, isn't she cute?" After saying that, Lucas gently placed his hand on the woman's shoulder. "Grace, this is Sarah, my wife." "Hello," Sarah smiled and extended her hand to me. Looking at her rounded belly, I was taken aback. My hand unconsciously touched my own abdomen, where a little life had once been. "But we were not meant to be. All right, let's go. I'll show you your dormitory." After saying that, Sarah walked up and linked her arm through mine. The dormitory provided by the Research Institute wasn't very large, but it was quite decent. I handed the miscarriage report to my supervisor, who approved my request for a few days off. A few days later, I returned to report for duty and successfully joined the latest research team. Unexpectedly, half a month later, I saw Christopher again. It was raining that day, and I had planned to go out to buy some daily necessities. As soon as I stepped out the door, I saw Christopher standing under a tree at the entrance of the Research Institute. He wasn't carrying an umbrella, and the rain had soaked his thin clothes, making him look quite disheveled. When he saw me coming out of the Research Institute, he hurried over. "Grace, it's been a while. How have you been?" His voice was hoarse, and his face was filled with exhaustion. It had only been 2 weeks. I tried to walk past him, but he suddenly grabbed my hand. "Grace, can we talk? Let's talk. Talk about how you turned the person you loved most into an enemy and neglected your own wife. Or talk about the things you regret now that you know the truth." I forcefully shook off his hand and glared at him. Christopher, looked at me, opened his mouth, but ultimately didn't say a word. "Christopher, why do you think I'd be waiting here for you?" Seeing Christopher lose his luster, I turned and walked away from him, but I didn't expect him to follow me, keeping a distance. Every time I bought something, he would come over to help me carry it. "Christopher, can you stop following me? Is that okay? You're my wife. If I don't follow you, who else would I follow?" Christopher looked at me and gave an awkward smile. Rain dripped from his forehead, making his smile seem forced. "We're already divorced. You gave me the divorce papers yourself. And your current wife is Emily." Mentioning Emily, Christopher's expression changed immediately. "Don't mention that woman." Seeing Christopher's change, I was taken aback. This was the first time he had ever referred to Emily as a bad woman in front of me. "Grace, I'm truly sorry this time. Can you forgive me just this once? Considering how long we've been together? Looking into Christopher's sincere eyes, I sighed and remained silent for a long time. I took out the piece of paper I had been carrying with me all along from my bag. Christopher, do you think we can go back to the way we were before? Is this really true? The moment Christopher saw the report, a clear expression of joy appeared on his face. When did this happen? It was the day you brought Emily to me and asked for a divorce. I already knew then. Does that mean I'm really going to be a father? He looked at me, a glimmer of hope flashing in his eyes. There's no child. I looked at him calmly. I've been carrying this report with me all this time because of my attachment to this child. What do you mean? The day after you said Emily was pregnant with your child, I had an abortion. Hearing my words, Christopher's expression turned from joy to anger. He gripped my hand tightly and said angrily, Grace, how dare you do this? His eyes were red, and the things in my hands fell to the ground. Why did this happen? I asked him, how dare you think I would choose to divorce you just because I was pregnant with your child? Do you know what kind of criticism a divorced woman carrying a child would face? Do you even know how hard it is for a woman to raise a child alone? I paused, noticing Christopher's hesitation, and suddenly smiled. Christopher, you don't understand. You're only thinking about Emily being pregnant and giving her a home, but you've forgotten that you already have a wife. Doesn't your wife deserve a home too? I looked him straight in the eyes and poured out all the grievances I'd been holding in for years. No, Grace, Christopher tried to say something, but the words got stuck in his throat. Christopher, seeing his expression, I spoke again. Just leave. I never want to see you again in my life. After saying that, I bent down, picked up the things on the ground, and walked away without looking back. To my surprise, after taking just a few steps, I heard a thud. When I turned around, I saw Christopher lying flat on the ground. He had a fever, and the doctor said it might be because he got caught in the rain. At that moment, he was lying in the hospital bed, his face flushed. And he kept murmuring my name. But now, hearing him call my name softly, my heart was as calm as water. Unexpectedly, just as I was finishing the hospital admission procedures for Christopher and preparing to leave, I saw Emily rushing toward the hospital. She saw me and slapped me across the face without hesitation. Grace, how could you be so cruel? I wish you'd just disappear. Emily said, her eyes filled with anger. She raised her hand to hit me again, but this time I quickly grabbed her hand. Emily, what are you doing? I want you to leave me. It was you who told Christopher about what happened to me abroad, wasn't it? I froze upon hearing her words, so that's why she came here. Emily came from a wealthy family. After graduating, her family sent her abroad. She had a happy life there and dated several men. Later, she became pregnant by one of them and wanted him to marry her. But he refused to divorce his wife. So she turned to his wife and threatened her. Unbeknownst to her, the wife was also strong-willed. Upon learning of the situation, she immediately chose to divorce her husband. However, after the divorce, the man did not marry Emily, but instead turned violent toward her. Emily couldn't take it anymore. So she returned to the country. That day at the hospital, she wanted to cause trouble for me, wanting everyone to know that she also had someone who cared about her. However, she probably didn't expect that, although my parents are no longer alive, the friends and connections they left behind can still help me. The things she did abroad aren't hard to investigate. And the envelope I gave Christopher before I left contained some of her secret matters. You really surprised me. I thought you were alone and powerless. But it turns out you have such skills. After saying that, Emily pushed me to the ground. You left me with nowhere to go. Christopher is now disappointed in me and made me lose my child. I feel like a rat being chased out of a street. I'm really angry. I just wanted to confront you today. As she spoke, Emily had already pinned me down and started attacking me. Suddenly, I felt my body grow lighter, and then I heard Christopher's cold voice. Emily, what are you doing? Christopher pulled Emily away from me with some force, and she fell to the ground. Christopher? Emily lay on the ground, staring in shock at the man before her. Christopher merely glanced at her with disgust before turning to help me up. Grace, are you okay? Christopher examined me carefully, and only after confirming I was unharmed did he relax. He turned around and glared angrily at Emily, saying, Emily, what are you doing here? Seeing Christopher angry, Emily quickly got up from the ground. Christopher, can you come back with me? She grabbed his hand, tears welling up in her eyes. Christopher shot Emily a displeased glance and frowned. Emily, I've already told you, what's between us is over. He tried to push her hand away forcefully, but she held on tightly. Christopher, I know I shouldn't have lied to you. It's my fault. Now that the child is gone, we can start over and look forward to having our own child. As she spoke, Emily tiptoed up to kiss Christopher, but he pushed her away. Emily, what's wrong with you? The doctor said you can't get pregnant anymore. All of this is your own doing. After saying that, Christopher didn't look at her anymore and turned to take my hand, leading me to another place. Grace, I knew you still cared about me. He looked at me with tenderness in his eyes. Grace, will you come home with me? Mom and Dad are waiting for us at home. Christopher, didn't you hear what I said earlier? I don't want to go back with you. I tried to break free from his grip, but he was too strong, and no matter how hard I struggled, I couldn't escape. Grace, are you okay? At that moment, I heard Lucas's voice. I turned around and saw him rushing over from across the hospital. He walked up to me, glanced at Christopher, then pulled me to his side and looked at me with concern. Grace, are you feeling unwell? I just heard you went to the hospital. I was wondering if it was because of the homework the teacher assigned recently. Are you feeling too much pressure? How do you feel? Are you feeling unwell anywhere? Lucas asked me while looking me up and down, and only relaxed when he confirmed I was okay. Then he turned to Christopher, who was standing nearby looking confused. You're Christopher, right? Christopher nodded. Before long, Lucas swung a punch at Christopher's face. Uncle Shen saved your father's life, and this is how the Christopher family repays the daughter of their savior. Seeing Lucas shield me behind him, my eyes welled up with tears. It's been so long since anyone protected me like this. Who are you? What's your relationship with her? Christopher, who had been punched, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and glared angrily at Lucas. Lucas pointed at Christopher and said, Who I am and what my relationship with her is none of your business. But if you keep bothering her, I'll beat you every time I see you. After saying that, Lucas took me away from the hospital. At the corner, he finally stopped and looked at me with a hint of reproach. As soon as I saw him, I couldn't help but lower my head. Lucas, I'm sorry. You're not apologizing to me. You're actually apologizing to yourself. Saying that, Lucas gently tapped my forehead. Since you've already decided to leave, Christopher's matter has nothing to do with you. Doing this will only make him think you still care about him. Grace, you've already been hurt once. Do you want to keep getting hurt? Lucas looked at me, his eyes filled with reproach and concern. I looked at him and shook my head. Sigh, if Sarah hadn't seen you go into the hospital, I wouldn't have known he came looking for you. Grace, you need to understand. Don't keep doing this. Listening to Lucas speak seriously, I nodded vigorously. Actually, after I told Lucas about Christopher and me, he's been regretting why he didn't let his mom adopt me back then. But at that time, everyone was poor, and raising a child wasn't easy, so Uncle Lucas and Auntie hesitated. I don't blame them. I can only say I shouldn't have fallen for Christopher. After that incident, I thought Christopher wouldn't come back, but I never expected him to keep waiting at the institute's gate every day, no matter the weather. He would wait there all day long. Many people at the research institute started discussing this, and Lucas defended me against the rumors. Later, people began to speculate that there was something going on between Lucas and me, and everyone thought that his concern for me must have a reason. Because of this, I specifically went to find Sarah. She comforted me, saying, Don't worry. Lucas mentioned your situation to me, and I believe there's nothing between you two. I trust Lucas. Sarah held my hand gently, her eyes filled with the concern of an older sister for her younger sister. She said, Grace, do you know, Lucas did indeed like you once. He mentioned it to me. Hearing Sarah's words, I was a bit surprised. I hadn't expected Lucas to have liked me before. I didn't care who he had liked in the past, who hasn't had youthful impulses. That pure love was also a beautiful memory. As she spoke, Sarah held my hand and smiled gently. The first time I met you, I understood why Lucas liked you back then. You're truly a good person and I like you too. Later, Lucas told me about your past with your ex-husband. To be honest, we've had similar experiences in love, but we ended up with different people. Lucas is someone who values emotions deeply, but he keeps his feelings separate. Now, he treats you like an older brother would treat his younger sister. I believe that's how he feels. Sarah gently stroked her swollen belly, her face radiating happiness. All I want now is to give birth to our child and raise her with Lucas. Seeing Sarah like this, I couldn't help but envy them. She was right. Everyone has a past. But what matters is knowing where to draw the line. People live together, but their ways of living are completely different. Days passed one after another. And on the day Lucas received the promotion notice, Sarah's condition worsened. Good things come in pairs. I never expected that when Lucas and I took Sarah to the hospital, we would run into Emily at the hospital entrance. "Grace, this is so unpleasant," Emily said, splashing the things in her hands at me before I could react. I was pushed aside. All I heard was a sharp sound, followed by a man's low growl and a woman's shriek. By the time I realized what was happening, I saw Christopher lying on the ground, rolling around and screaming, while Emily stood there dumbfounded, her eyes seeming to lose their luster. Fortunately, we were at the hospital entrance, and the doctors rushed out upon hearing the commotion. Following the doctor's instructions, Lucas accompanied Sarah to the obstetrics ward, while I went with Christopher to the emergency room. Emily followed us in a daze. Seeing Christopher's half-burned face, I realized that the substance Emily had thrown at me was sulfuric acid. I clenched my fists, glaring at Emily, who was crouched in the corner muttering to herself. A surge of revenge welled up inside me, but I knew I couldn't do that. Emily was arrested, and Christopher was taken into the operating room. Outside the operating room, I took the opportunity to check on Sarah and the baby, only to find out that, due to the incident with Emily, Sarah had suffered severe bleeding during childbirth. Although the baby was born safely, she did not survive. Seeing Lucas's swollen eyes, I didn't go over to comfort him. Now, I truly didn't know what to say. If it weren't for me, or because Emily wanted to hurt me, Sarah might not have been so scared. Not long after, Lucas left the hospital with the child, and he didn't say a single word to me as he left. I think he must be very resentful toward me and regret ever meeting me. Christopher's surgery went smoothly, and there was no life-threatening danger, though half of his face was injured. A week later, Christopher's parents heard the news and rushed over. Seeing his condition, they couldn't help but cry by his hospital bed. Later, Christopher's father asked to speak with me privately. He said that after seeing the envelope, Christopher had chased after me at the train station. But by then, I had already left. After that, Christopher confronted Emily. At first, Emily denied everything, but after seeing all the evidence, she eventually had to admit the truth. Christopher wanted to divorce her, but she refused, and the matter became quite contentious. Later, Emily's family found out about her actions abroad and felt her behavior was disgraceful. So they no longer recognized her as their daughter. What about Emily's child? I remember Emily mentioned that she lost the baby she was carrying. On the day, Lucas went to write the divorce report. Emily slipped on the stairs, fell, and miscarried. Christopher's father looked at me and sighed. "Grace, when Christopher said he wanted to come find you, I was very happy. If you really want to come back, we will treat you much better." But alas, Christopher's father looked at Christopher lying in the hospital bed. "This is his karma, after all. I'm sorry, Grace. It's our Christopher family who caused you so much suffering." After saying that, he walked over and hugged me like a father. After a long time, he let go of me and turned around, leaving alone. I didn't go back to the hospital room, but returned to the research institute alone. Lucas took the children to his new workplace after his promotion. Christopher's father and mother took Christopher home, back to where they belonged. Later, I visited Emily. She was confined in a mental hospital, her hair disheveled, hugging a pillow as if trying to lull a baby to sleep. I submitted my resignation to the research institute and left with all my savings. I wanted to go to a place where no one knew me and start anew. The past no longer mattered. I hoped to live a good life in the future.